What's up, everybody? My name is Dr. Chris Leib, and I just want to take a minute to discuss my latest article, which has to do with cardiovascular training and some of the misconceptions around it, specifically why you or some of your clients may hate cardio and how you can change that. So in the article, I discuss, my story about thinking of cardiovascular exercise in the realm of being an athlete, where it was just longer duration type of activity that I never found myself to be very good at. So I was always better at the kind of quicker hit, power, strength type of stuff. And then whenever we have to do longer duration runs or anything like that, I was always in the back of the pack. And I always just assumed that was cardiovascular exercise, and I didn't like it. So I kind of, didn't do it as much myself, but I also started to notice that it wasn't showing up as much in my training of my clients because I didn't feel as comfortable with it. And that changed when I started actually just monitoring my heart rate with a simple chest strap. I started kind of looking into some of the stuff from Joel Jamieson, and at first I was just a little skeptical too. It's like, okay, what does monitoring a heart rate? That's old science. That's kind of it's not that big of a deal. It can't make that big of a change. And then when I actually started doing it, what I realized is with the current technology the way it is, you can have your chest strap monitor on, you can have your phone next to you, and you can be doing the movements that you like to do, the stuff that you already feel comfortable with, and just make a slight tweak based on what your heart rate's telling you and turn it into a cardiovascular endeavor. So it doesn't have to be long runs. It doesn't have to be long rows. It can be whatever you want it to be. It can be a mixture of things. It can be a mixture of circuit training. But as long as you're monitoring that heart rate, you can turn it into a cardiovascular endeavor. And this just totally changed the game for me. It made me feel like I was actually improving athleticism, but I had way more of an objective awareness of how I was affecting the cardiovascular system, which is important no matter whether we like it or not. I mean, there's plenty of evidence, which I discuss in the article, about that. So what I want to do with this video is just take some time to do a little screen share of how to use, I'll use the Polar Beat app with a Polar H10 strap to get the heart rate up. And then I'm going to do just some kind of non-conventional cardiovascular movements just to demonstrate how to get that heart rate up. All right, so let's take a look at how to set up and use the Polar H10 heart rate monitor, chest strap heart rate monitor, with the Polar Beat app. So that's the Polar Beat app right here. So I'm just going to click on that. I'm already registered here, so this is how everything is registered. When you originally register, you will get a max heart rate that is going to be based on 220 minus age. So I recommend if you're a beginner or if your clients are beginners, you just start with that and then have them do that for a few weeks before you up it. And then the way that you can up your max heart rate on this is I'm just going to click on my name there. If you go to the bottom, you see HR max here. So I have it set at 207 now. And I got that calculation basically by using the Carvin method for 75% of my target heart rate. And then I just reverse the math to find out what my 100% or max heart rate would be. And that's where I have kept it for a little while. And that's what my heart rate zones are based on. So you could adjust that over time just by going there. But originally, when you just put your date of birth in, and your age, your date of birth will give it your age, then it'll figure it out based on just 220 minus age. All right, so let me go back from there, and I'm just going to go to training. All right, and then I'm going to put the heart rate monitor on. So you usually have to wet it a little bit with some water right on this. We got a black strap through there, but what I'm going to do is simply put it on. Clip it in place, and then you just want it right below the chest there. All right, so once it's on there, if it's reading, you'll see the little blue circle here, put a heart rate. So now I'm at about 100. Usually it might be up a little bit and then come back down. So you just get a sense that, okay, it's actually reading by seeing the heart rate on there. Then I'm going to hit start. So for the workouts that I'll show you, I'm just going to do other indoor, but if I hit this plus button, you can see all the possible workouts that are programmed in here, from aerobics to ballet to running, etc. So I'm just going to pick other indoor, no GPS, and then I'm going to hit start. Okay, and then that's going to get me to this screen, which I will use for training. All right, so you can see the duration, you can see the heart rate, the distance, the speed. Now, the distance and speed aren't going to be relevant here because we're just doing other indoor. There's no GPS. And the calories, I think, are important, in the long run, depending on what type of training you're doing. So there's 4 screens. You can see the 4 dots at the bottom here. So if I shift over, I usually like to use this 3rd screen, which gives you all the different zones of training. So the number 1 white zone is below 50%. Actually, I think it's below 60%. And then the blue zone is 60 to 70%. The green zone is 70 to 80% of your max heart rate or your target heart rate that you've calculated. Yellow is 80 to 90%, and then red is 90 plus. So a lot of the cardio workouts I do, I'm staying between green and yellow. If I want to have a little bit more, maybe a longer duration, lower intensity, I'll try to stay in blue. If I want to do just a recovery workout, I might just do a short amount of time in blue. But those heart rate zones give you a clear intention for your cardiovascular workout. And you can use this with pretty much any movement. So you can manipulate load, you can manipulate speed, you can manipulate power to try to spark your heart rate or be able to do things that you would normally do for short amounts of time, a little bit longer, as long as you're keeping your heart rate wherever you want it. All right, so that's what I'm going to demonstrate with a few different movements, with using a kettlebell, using some body weight kind of power movements, and then we'll just keep the screen being shared so that we can see the heart rate go up or down. All right, so now that we have the heart rate monitor set up, I'm just going to make one change before I get into some of the movements. So as you see here, it says 85 beats per minute now. And then there's these 2 dots. I can just tap those dots, and then it's going to basically change it to percentages. And I like to do my workouts here at percentages because it just gives me a better idea of when I'm approaching the next color zone. So if I'm getting if I'm in blue and I'm around 68%, I know at 70%, I'm going to be approaching green. So it helps me stay more organized with how much more work I have to do before I get to the appropriate zone. And it's very useful with clients, especially when I'm doing Zoom sessions, because everybody's beat per minute number is going to mean different things when it comes to percentages. So the percentages are a more standardized way to know what zones people are training in. All right, so I'm going to start there, and then we're going to start with just a single kettlebell, and we're going to do some dead start movements. Okay, so dead start meaning we're just starting from the bell being on the ground. I'm going to start with cleans, and I'm just going to try to use power to get my heart rate up. So I'm just focusing on the propulsive, concentric part of the movement, and then I'm going to alternate that, but I'm going to take some efforts to minimize how much of the eccentric load I'm going to do. So let's go through that as powerfully as I can. Get the heart rate up. Getting into blue. Now the weight here is something I'm comfortable with. It's not too light, it's not too heavy. Moderate weight. If it's too light, you have to do too many reps. You have to go too fast to get the heart rate up. Too heavy, I'm going to have to brake too frequently, and it might be unsafe. So now I've gotten into green. I'm going to rest a little bit, and then I'm going to do a different movement. Okay? So I want to see how high that goes before it starts going back down. If I want the heart rate to come down quicker, I go to hands on knees or I sit down. Now it's in blue again. So I'm going to go clean, squat. Put it down, stand up. Clean, squat. Put it down, stand up. I'll take this up a little higher. Stop at 72. And we do one more on the other side. All right, so that brought me to 75. Let's see how high it goes. So I want to bring it down. I'm going to go hands on knees. Extend out my exhales. All right, so that's an example of using some dead start reps with a kettlebell. Now, if I want to do some body weight exercises, I like to use speed repeats, which just means I'm going to go eccentric, concentric as fast as I can, basically body weight sprints. Let the heart rate come up, rest, let it come down, and keep repeating that. So I'll use jump squats as an example. Drop, quick, quick. Rest. Let it come down. All right, so it goes up for a little bit. I want to bring it down quicker. Go hands on knees. And repeat. And rest. And now just keep repeating that. So the movement that you choose, the load that you choose, the intensity you choose is going to be dictated by the heart rate. The key is to keep things varied so you don't create the same joint strain over and over again, and have fun with it. Promote versatility and just see what gets you in your heart rate zone. So the idea here with a workout like this would be mix the movements up, try to go for maybe 30 minutes in green. I could also do 20 minutes in yellow. It depends on what my goal is for the day, but the key is that I'm monitoring it in real time. So hopefully you find that useful. If you have any questions, I can be reached at movementprofessional.com. I'd be happy to discuss any of these concepts further. See ya.